May I remind you that trading is risky and not suitable for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you can't afford to lose. Welcome to QuantBox Daily. That's right now, it's Sunday, May 7th, but this QuantBox session is for the Asia session coming up on Monday, May 8th. Cool. So what is QuantBox? Well, for those of you who've been following my videos, you know that QuantBox is a global macroeconomic quant-in-a-box. It's a fundamental tool that gives you a fundamental bias across a number of different asset classes. And a one-week trial is 790. You marry the fundamental bias with technical analysis, and it gives you an edge on the market. Very, very powerful stuff. So before we jump into this, I want to talk about our watch list from last week, our CAD yen. You remember we drew this line over here, and in the last session, we spoke about potentially closing this and how it was at that level of support where you might consider getting out. And you can see that was the right thing to do. Okay, cool. So fantastic. You got in over here and you got out over there. Or you got in over here and you got out at the S1. Either way, that trade worked out very nicely for us. So taking a look at our fundamental bias for the dollar pairs, let's have a gander. So euro dollar coming through with a bias of neutral. Pound dollar coming through the bias of neutral as well. USD CAD strong buy, was strong buy last week, currently neutral. Aussie USD coming through with a strong sell, and then Kiwi dollar coming through with neutral. So Aussie dollar USD, the only currency pair of the dollar pairs that we want to do anything with. Let's take a look at Aussie USD. So Aussie USD, as you can see here, interesting situation. So we've currently got price at a pivot point of R1. Now we know that R1 has a target of S1. What's interesting about this target is that S1 doesn't mark the bottom of the range, which is very interesting. Now, because of the fact we are ranging, R1 is a pivot point we certainly would pay attention to. Notice that from a price action perspective, we're not at the top of the range currently, okay? But we can still take a look at the R1 and see if we get any opportunity to sell this, okay? And then obviously if price does go down, as we go further down, we can then pay attention to what happens to the bottom of the range, or alternatively at the S1. So looking at the weekly pivot points, you can see here, we're not only at the monthly R1, we're also at the weekly M3. Now, if we take a look at the weekly M1, we can see that our weekly M1 target is directly in line with the bottom of the range. So that's not a bad target at all. And that could be quite a nice trade if it works out for us, okay? So what we want to do is we want to put this on our watch list, and we're looking at our M15 time frame. It's very, very simple, very, very easy. We're looking at this right now. We're saying to ourselves, okay, let's do exactly what we did with the CAD yen trade. You're just going to basically mark this off over here, okay? You're going to let this do its thing. You're looking for 21 to cross over the 55. So 21 is below the 55, and then price comes back up for a lower high at some kind of resistance, okay? Ultimately, you'd love to see price coming up 55, coming up double top, lower low, lower high. However it works out, ultimately, you're looking for price to close at resistance, okay? If price closed at the DM3, I would still wait for the lower low, lower high, because that's an absolute confirmation of bearishness. And once you get that lower high, if it sets up that way, just make sure you look at your M5 chart and your M1 chart to make sure that those charts are also bearish. In other words, if you see price closing at resistance on M15, but your M5 and your M1 are bullish, making higher highs and higher lows, 21 above the 55, that's an indication of bullishness. You want to be careful of that. Wait for bearishness on those time frames as well. So let's add this to our watch list, seeing as we've now got to take the CAD yen off and put the Aussie dollar USD in. And so I'll pop this on a weekly pivot because we've got that M3 over there. And what we're looking for here is, let's look at the M15 time frame and pay attention to that over there for a lower low, lower high. Remember, 21 below the 55 pullback. It's the exact same way we entered into the CAD yen sell. And you can see here's an example of those higher highs, higher lows, and how that confirms bullishness before price shot up. So looking to do the exact opposite thing over here. Rad. In terms of the H1 time frame, you could also look at this time frame here, and you could see price. You can see here price has made a higher high. Okay, so again, you want to make sure you verify lower lows and lower highs and lower time frames. This trade might not work out. It might continue going up. We're not too sure what happens with this, but the fact is, it's better to pay attention to it because we have got a bias of sell on the dollar pair over here, and we are currently at places where we could see bearishness. So verify that down the line. Cool. Taking a look at our yen pairs. Now, as you know, on the yen pairs, we're looking to trade seasonality for yen strength. Overall bias coming through neutral, but I'm ignoring the overall bias. even if it says buy, and I'm looking for indication of yen's strength across the board, where we get an opportunity to express that using lower lows and lower highs on lower time frames. So taking a look at our Aussie yen, and again, this is a seasonality for people as we go into summer, and as we see traders, preparing for those summer holidays. So, if we get yen strength, it could take us into the third week of August. It's a possibility, and it's one that we should definitely pay attention to, because if it happens, it can be quite lucrative. Of course, if it doesn't happen, we won't get the setup and we'll just not take the trade. Now you can see here on Aussie yen, the daily price coming off this support over here. Now, price has not made a higher high yet. Okay, you can see we got that resistance over there. So right now you could lock off this over here, and on the H4 time frame, you can see their price, this candle here breaking this resistance. Okay, which is interesting because we were waiting for price to come back up to this resistance or some kind of resistance. You can see their price currently there. And if I look left, you can see it kind of broke this resistance over here. I'm not expecting to see bearishness of this just yet, but it's a similar situation to the Aussie dollar USD. You're looking for a lower low, lower high. What I would do is ultimately I'd like to see price coming up to resistance on the daily time frame first. Okay, you can see they're broken that resistance, not at resistance right now in terms of last week. So I'm going to wait in the daily time frame for price to come up to resistance, and then let's see where we are once we're there, and we can then verify things down the line after that. So for now, I'm going to stay on the daily time frame and keep an eye on this when we look at this tomorrow. CAD yen we already got out of. Now, of course, CAD yen, we were looking at these trades and saying, wouldn't it be nice for price to come back up and we can then potentially sell this? And that's indeed what is happening right now. Now, of course, price not currently at resistance. And if you treated this as resistance, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just make sure you verify it in lower time frames. Okay. I mean, I would love to see price come all the way back up here for a double top. Not that it's a double top, but you understand what I'm saying. Closing at this resistance up here, top of the range, and then verifying that lower time frames. If this is resistance and this is bearish, then you'll see lower lows and lower highs in the lower time frame, which is fine. I don't see any indication of bearishness right now in any time frames. You've got the daily M3 over here. You have got the you are in a sell zone at the moment, but this is not a roll reversal. See, what I'm looking for in terms of roll reversals is I'm looking for a peak and a trough. This is just price messing about. So I'm going to ignore that as resistance. I'm going to wait for price to get up here if it comes up all the way here. Okay. If this does suddenly turn bearish and we start getting lower lows and lower highs, we'll get a significant number of them. So we don't have to stress too much about getting into this too early. I'd rather see price at the right resistance before jumping in. You can see right now, probably not the right area. Okay. If you want to make absolutely sure and you think to yourself, well, low volatility, that could be resistance, just look for your lower low, lower high on your lower time frame over here, M15. Okay, right now 21 above 55, everything says bullish on this time frame. So you need some things to change. Keep an eye on this throughout the day, and then we'll see what happens between this session and our next session. In terms of euro yen, you can see euro yen over here coming off this support. Okay, cool. 21 above 55. We're looking for price to come back up for a lower high. What's interesting about where price is right now is you can see price coming up and going straight into this resistance. What's interesting is that price hit this 55. What came down is now trying to shoot back up. This 21.55 is currently flat. You can see the moving averages are currently converging and very, very low momentum. I'm not considering that as a place to sell. Because you can also see here when price came down to this level of support, look what happened over here. Look at how price closed at support left-hand side. So if this was a lower high, it should not have produced a higher low over here. Okay, so therefore I'm going to ignore this and just wait for price to come back up. Again, if this produces a lower low, it'll produce a lower low, a lower high. There'll be several of them. We don't have to stress too much about this. Let's just watch how this develops. Because of the indications of bullishness in the daily time frame and there being indication of bullishness on the lower on H4 time frame with this higher low over here. Let's just see how this develops. What might happen is price comes down, finds support, then goes back up. So just keep an eye on that over the between this session and the next session. Pound yen, similar situation to the euro yen. As you can see here, also price having broken up. Now again, I'm looking for price to come up to the top of this range over here. That would be ideal. So I'm going to wait for this to set up as well. And maybe we get that, maybe we don't. We'll have to see what happens. Kiwi yen currently top of the range. Okay. And you can see this worked over here. We didn't take that trade, and now prices come all the way back up. Fantastic. Also looking at this and saying, well, can we come up to the top of this range over here and find ourselves at a better level of resistance? What's interesting is you can see here, price breaking that resistance over there, price closing at the support over here, indicating bullishness. And I want to see indications of bearishness before I even consider selling this. So let's wait for this to set up a bit longer. On the Swissies, you know that we've been looking at these and looking for opportunities to sell. We've been waiting. We didn't sell down here. We were waiting for price to pull back up to resistance. You can see why we did that. Also completely out of position for a sell down here. And you can see price breaking that resistance. It's a good thing we didn't do any selling down there. We also paid attention to price coming off this 21 EMA. We didn't get any setups. What we were waiting for is price to break out of it. As price came down with the red candle, we're looking for price to break out to the bottom of the range, pull back up to resistance so we could sell. You can see why we did that, because as a result of waiting for that, we could confirm that price actually was bullish, and we avoided selling where we would have lost. Okay, so not much we're going to do with this Aussie Swissy. In terms of the CAD Swissy, you can see the same story. Okay, we were looking at this, and I said to you, wait for price to break out and pull back up and close at resistance. You can see why we did that. This candle didn't close at resistance, it broke resistance, indicating that this is not bearish, and we avoided losing money on that trade. Fantastic. Euro Swissy, you can see here also bottom of the range, leaving that one alone. And on the pound Swissy, bottom of the range, leaving that one alone. I'm looking for Swiss franc strength as well, also seasonal play. And then you can see here, Kiwi Swissy, we also said when price came off the 21 EMA, wait for price to make a lower low. And if it does, then sell a lower high. And you can see there, we did that because of where price was from a positional perspective, and price indeed went up. We avoided losing money on that trade as well. So right now, in terms of the other pairs, Euro Pound, you can see there, we've still got price. We've kind of moved out of the range we were in, but this is still very much sideways. Euro Pound coming through with a bias of neutral. Cool. And the majority of these guys here are also, let's have a look at our score chart summary over here. We can just see, let's take a look and see pound Aussie and pound CAD coming through bullish. Let's take a look at those guys. Pound Aussie, pound CAD. So pound Aussie. Now, in terms of buying this, okay, cool. You are currently at support. My concern here is that price comes down to support. Price, this is so bullish that price didn't make a higher high. Okay, so right now, instantly lock this into a range. Okay, and my concern is if price came down to support and it did over here, why didn't price make a higher high here? Why did price come up? Where are the bulls? Why did price come up and then come down? Okay, I'm not liking the setup on this. If you are insistent on this being a trade you want to take, perhaps price comes all the way back down there and then shoots up. Okay, so I need this to be a proper support. Looking at the daily, I'm concerned. What you could also do is you could also lock this into a range like that, and you can wait for price to break out of there, pull back down for support. And what you'd be looking at there then, if we go into the daily time frame, let's do that quickly. Let's do this over here, put this over there, and you've got sort of like that, right? So I think it's much easier to wait for price to pull back down to support down here, if that happens, and then verify that lower time frame. Okay, but it's something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it happens in the course of Monday. Sort of see, but right now, not liking that volatility in the daily time frame. So pound Aussie, then pound CAD, also bullish. You can see there, we went up, and then look at how price breaks support. Like, that's so bullish that price breaks support. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay, I'm not liking the volatility on this. And looking at that H4 time frame, currently in a weekly M2, if price was going to go up, this is a good place for price to go up. Okay, what you could do is you could look for a higher high, higher low on the M15 time frame, and you could then trade the M2 to the M4. Okay, because of the fact that we had M2, let's just add this into our watch list. Why not? Put it with our Aussie USD pound CAD. So you can see where it is over here. Where are we? Pound CAD. And let's just pop this on the weekly pivot. And we can then have that over there. So M15, looking for a higher high, higher low. And potentially that level over there would become support in the future. Or this level over here Okay, but remember, you want your 21 above your 55. Price needs to make a higher high, pull back down, higher low, and verify on lower time frames. Okay, taking a look at our other pairs, so look and see here. Where's our Euro, Aussie, and Euro? Okay, so Euro, Aussie, Euro CAD isn't bearish. Aussie CAD bearish. Aussie Kiwi bearish. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at those then. So Aussie CAD. Okay, not going to do anything in the middle of the range. Let's go. What else do we have? We had Aussie Kiwi. Aussie Kiwi going to bearish. Right now, completely out of position for a sell. Going to leave that alone. And then Aussie CAD, yeah, it's fine. Aussie CAD, Swiss, you looked at that already. Aussie Kiwi. Cool. So basically, like that's our watch list right now. Okay. So we'll see how these two guys set up between now and the next session. Remember, on Aussie USD, you're looking for that lower low, lower high. Okay, nothing indicates bearishness right now, but we are in position for bearishness, and you know if that works out, then great. And you're looking for price to make a lower low, 21 cross the 55, then pull back up, lower high, and that's your indication of sell. Over here, you're looking for a higher high, higher low. Okay, and that'll be indication to buy because of the fact that you're currently at a weekly M2. All right, so let's see how those work out. I'll see you at the next session. Stay patient, stay disciplined, stay liquid, and have a great day. Cheers.